Yo, 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 hi. Quick one here. I actually saw this news some time ago. Let me shut this window. Hold on. Better. All right, guys. So I saw this news like some time ago, and I just wanted to do a quick vid. This is going to be a really short one. So all we're hearing is that John Boyega said that he doesn't want to do Star Wars anymore at all. Like, doesn't want to be involved in the franchise. Doesn't want to, he's finished. He's done. He's not coming back. His case closed. And he already actually said this some time ago. So if you remember earlier on, when the movie had just ended, I think he did say this, that he didn't want to do a TV show version of it. People were talking about the possibility of a Poe Finn spin-off show, and he was like, nah. And I think what's his name? Whatever the other guy's name, Isaac, Oscar Isaac said that he didn't want to do it. I don't think he's interested in doing it either. So anyway, yeah, so that's, listen, man, I mean, the fact that this guy is actually coming out and actually saying this stuff, like, in open, like, I mean, that's serious. I think, you know what, let me just say this, right? This Star Wars thing is the biggest tragedy in movie history. It's the biggest tragedy because you're talking about, like, this franchise was like an unkillable franchise. Like, it's just, I couldn't actually fathom how it could possibly go down. So the fact that you have a guy saying that he doesn't even want to be involved with Star Wars, man, I mean, that is just, that's a serious thing, man. But anyway, look, that's what the guy said, and obviously he's got a lot of other things going on. Listen, on the Finn stuff, like, and him specifically, honestly, the way that this guy's character was, like, the level of disrespect involved, guys, it's pretty astonishing. Like, first of all, it was a bait and switch. And I've said this before, but I'm just going to put this out here because he said that he doesn't want to be involved. So for people who are looking at this guy's comments and saying that, it's, going to say that it's selfish, and they're going to be like, blah, 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 so on and so forth. Let's just put some things on the table here, okay? The first thing that you've got to understand, is that this guy was marketed as a Jedi. You've got to actually just acknowledge that. That's how this guy was managed. And you see that poster with this guy with a lightsaber, right? And in the history of Star Wars, you've never seen a person holding a saber who isn't a Jedi or is liable to become a Jedi, that doesn't have Force powers. Like, it's just never happened before. So when you see it, you're like, why would you put on they knew what they were doing, because I'm like, you put this guy on the poster, everybody's going to think like, this guy's going to be a Jedi. And that was what got me excited. Now, the thing that is so aggravating about what happened is that it felt so much that it was a pandering thing of like, let's get all these minorities in there, put Finn in there, he's black, cast a black actor, and then just do some lip service. But the reality is that this guy won't have any real agency in the story. I mean, they made this guy a sanitation worker, for God's sake. Like, that was the icing on the cake with it. That not only wasn't he a Jedi, not only did he lose every single fight he had, not only did he chase after Rey, a person that kept saying that she didn't need him. Not only all of that happened, and they put him in a coma at the end of the movie just to add insult to injury. He wasn't even a real stormtrooper. He was a stormtrooper, but he was like a sanitation guy. Now, whoever thought of that? You're a clown. Like, why would you do that? All this to say that it is understandable that the guy will look at the situation and say, what am I going back to? That even when all this was said and done, I didn't even get the girl. He wasn't allowed to kiss Rey. He wasn't allowed. And that's just a black and white thing. That's a racial thing. I'm like, he just wasn't allowed to. Like, wait a minute. So Kylo, a psychopath who kidnapped her, killed millions of people, killed her friends as well that she just made. That's the guy you fall in love with? Like, what does that mean? In the meantime, you've got a guy who put his life on the line for you over and over again, went into a coma for you, and you kiss him on the head at the end of Force Awakens and say, my friend? You know what I'm saying? So, like, of course the guy isn't going to want to come back. You know, I mean, that's an obvious. So it makes complete sense. I understand where the guy's coming from. In fact, I empathize with him for having to put up with that thing for as long as he did, you know, going through the, you know, movie to movie, his character just kept systematically getting eroded to the point that the guy had absolutely no agency whatsoever, absolutely no value to the thing. And it made no, like, listen, this is the point. If you took Finn out of the series and you took Poe out of the series, how much of a difference does it make? Because they front loaded so much onto Rey. They just like it. It was like she didn't need any other person in the story. So for the character like this, why on earth would John Boyega want to go forward with the? Like, there's nothing to go forward with. So it makes complete sense. I have no qualms with his decision. You know, I mean, it's just going to be interesting how this goes because, you know, you created a swath of characters that people have already forgotten about, nobody cares about. Like, for better or worse, right? If you look at the prequels, George Lucas created a wealth of material that to this day is still powering the Star Wars franchise. All the Clone Wars, Gungans, Trade Federation, like all the stuff he made in the prequels has powered Knights of the Old Bloody Republic, man. Like, just so much of it has siphoned off the stuff he created with that stuff that you look at that and you say that, listen, man, Star Wars is still being fueled by the first 6 films. The last 3 films that came out have literally not added anything at all new to the ethos. Nothing, like just nothing. So you're looking at it and I'm like, yeah, so why would anybody be remembering the First Order when you have the Empire? And the First Order just looked like the Empire. So you might as well just go with regular stormtroopers. You see what I'm saying? There was nothing about them that was different enough for you to say that you're looking at something new. And that goes across the board for everything else. So I think the weird part that you have now is that if even the actors involved with the new breed, the new edge, don't want to be involved, and nobody's buying the toys, you know, there's nobody's making any cartoons based on, you know, or anything based on the new stuff. And that's the sad part. I think, and that's the crazy part, is that you sacrificed the old for the new, and the new aren't interested. And that is the biggest irony, because the real fans who powered this thing for decades, you didn't respect that engine in lieu of new people who are ADD. These are the Marvel people. Like, they need to be bombarded with new stuff constantly to keep them interested. They need to be bombarded with like massive $300 million movies with like 500 characters, and they need that's the requirements. But Star Wars isn't that thing. So it's like, it's a family movie. I mean, or rather, it's a movie about a family. It's like almost like a soap drama in space. You know, it's not this massive, you know, trying to manipulate it and turn it into Avengers. It's like, it's just not going to work. It's not a superhero thing, you know? And listen, I mean, I don't want to get into like a whole talk about Star Wars now, but all this to say is that, you know, John Boyega deciding that he's done with it and he doesn't want to come back. I think when you look at the way his character was treated, you can't be that upset about it, you know? Like, you've got to, you know, like, I mean, I don't think anybody's upset. I mean, let me take that back. Nobody's upset, but I don't think that anybody can begrudge the decision. And I think when I looked online, and everybody's like, okay, you know, what are you going to do? Till this evening, I don't know, what movie is it? I think it's Rambo 2 tonight, for the Talkback Classics that we're going to be doing, or that I'm going to be doing anyway. So I'll be back later on. Till then, payouts go back in. Till the next time, guys.